City councilors have been giving attention to natural gas pipelines under the streets of Boston. One reason is the danger and financial loss caused by gas leaks. Another is the new high-pressure pipeline that's meeting opposition in West Roxbury. We'd like to welcome one of the councilors among the most concerned, representing West Roxbury and Jamaica Plain, Matt O'Malley. Thank you very much for being with us, Councilor.
Great to be with you, Chris.
First of all, I want to talk about the leaks, because this is something that it goes back a ways, and there's a lot of documentation about this. And people say, well, that's a state issue. Why is the City Council getting involved?
Well, the state has done some good work, but we've seen some very innovative legislation at the state level by Representative Lori Ehrlich and State Senator Jamie Eldridge, which have essentially not been put forth as strongly as we would have liked. No disrespect towards them, they're doing everything to advocate for it, but it seems to be stalled a little bit. So one thing I'd like to see is for the city to sort of take control, and I think it's an issue that many other cities and towns could emulate. The most conservative estimates peg the number of gas leaks in Boston to about 2,000. That's the most conservative. Other independent auditing agencies have said it could be double or triple or even quadruple that number. And these are gas leaks which are, in some instances, decades old. There was a 32-year-old gas leak in Beacon Hill that was finally fixed a year ago. And it's unconscionable. And God forbid we see what has happened throughout the country. Just last week or 2 weeks ago in Salem Township in Pennsylvania, there was a massive explosion. 40 acres of land were burnt. One person was seriously injured. If that were to happen in a densely populated area, it could be very catastrophic.
Well, that's a pipeline controlled by a company that's a subsidiary of the company that's building the new pipeline.
That's right. It's Spectra Energy, and it has been beyond frustrating how little they've taken into the concerns of the neighbors, of the residents, of the elected officials. It is offensive how FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, has essentially dismissed so many concerns that we've brought up. We've tried everything to stop this, and when I say we, I mean the community is united. Congressman Lynch has been fantastic, Mayor Walsh has been fantastic, myself, Senator Mike Rush, Representative Ed Coppinger. We've tried appealing the public safety avenue, the public health avenue. The city refused to deny permits to Spectra until we were taken to court. We're now appealing the tolling order for an opportunity to rehear the validity of why this is a bad idea in federal court, and the community has been fantastic. People have been literally getting arrested protesting this, and I really appreciate their advocacy, and we're all united in this.
Well, I know it's scary to think that you have a pipeline of this kind near an active quarry in West Roxbury, but you know, if you force them to relocate it, aren't they going to build it someplace?
Well, this was never a NIMBY issue. I mean, obviously, it is my belief that as a country, we need to be looking at renewable energy sources, hydro, wind, solar, obviously. But I recognize that most people use gas. I use gas in my house. Most people in Boston use gas. But the fact that this pipeline and a transfer M&R station, meter and regulating station, is directly across the street from an active quarry does lead one to think that there is a potential for another catastrophe to happen. So we've said all along, this isn't about not in West Roxbury, this isn't about not in the city of Boston, but just spend a little more money if it must be done. Move the route, move the transfer station, the M&R station as well, and all of our concerns, all of our pleads have fallen on deaf ears.
Well, speaking of hazards, it's a lot more likely that people are going to encounter these on the road, pedestrians and drivers, bicyclists, and you're going to be working on that next week.
That's right. Councilor Andrea Campbell and I put a hearing order several weeks ago to really check in on Mayor Walsh's Vision Zero program, which is going to allow for new signage, new technology, new ways to make the streets of Boston a little bit more safe for pedestrians, for cyclists, for drivers as well. We've seen an uptick, unfortunately, in accidents over the last couple of years. There was an elderly woman from Rosendale who was killed and struck right off of Washington Street several months ago. So we want to make sure that we are doing what we can. And you know, for years it was, we need speed bumps, we need speed bumps. Admittedly, that could be part of the solution. Many people are concerned with emergency vehicles, with snowplows, that it could do more damage, but there's other things that we can do. There's raised crosswalks, for example. There's better signage. There's solar-powered speed display sign. There's bump outs that you can do in certain areas. There's something called cycle tracks, which is a buffer between the cyclist and the road. And there are things that we ought to be looking to make sure that Boston is the most walkable, friendly city in the country.
What about the generalized 20 miles an hour in a densely populated
area?
So
that is something that I supported. I know other people have concerns. I think it's important to note that we are not suggesting, when the City Council, I believe, unanimously passed the home rule petition, which would allow us to lower the speed limit to 20 miles an hour. That wouldn't be every street. That certainly wouldn't be your center streets or your Washington streets. This would be some of the smaller side streets that are thickly settled, that can often, you've seen accidents, we've seen things. There's a vestige of the home rule form of government that we have, that the cities and towns throughout the Commonwealth cannot set their own speed limits. We have to go through the state level, and I think that this is one tool in our toolbox that we ought to be able to have the ability to use.
Well, just last night, the BRA approved a project in your district in West Roxbury, and there's been a lot of opposition to that, and a lot of campaigning from the other side here. So how do you come down to that? Allendale Woods.
This is Allendale Woods, 64 Allendale Street. This is, very close to where I grew up on Center Street. I was disappointed that the developers, after hearing so many concerns from the community, didn't make the size and scope of the project a little bit smaller. It's about 20 units. They want to do townhouses. I give the developers credit. It's a very green, LEED certified development, something I as an environmentalist celebrate, but I do think that Allendale Woods are such an important part that anything we can do to minimize the impact. So I think still going forward, and I'm hopeful, although they passed the BRA board, we will go before the Zoning Board of Appeal, and the process will continue, that the project can be shrunken in size a little bit. Several units can be taken off. We can increase the buffer from the wetlands through the property line. And you have the Spring House, an elderly residence facility, but you also have an old Spring House, which is, a landmark, or if it's not designated as such, it should be. So it's a beautiful part of the neighborhood, and I want to see it protected, recognizing that development is coming, but hopefully they can make it a smaller project and most people will be satisfied.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Great to be with you, Chris.
City Councilor Matt O'Malley.